If you want. Yeah, she'll be here. She'll be joining us at 9:40. Yes. Yeah. Go ahead.
Sometimes.
Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'd like to call our regular board meeting of April 26, 2022 to order at 9 a.m. And at this time, I would kindly ask David to lead us in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Let's see. Oh, well, let's have the call to order, and I think Melissa, you'll do the roll call, please. Okay.
Okay, we'll start off. Director Balin,
Here.
Director Boatwright,
Here.
Director Kearns.
Here.
Okay, Director Murphy will be joining us today at around 9:40 a.m. And then Director Ringen.
Here.
Okay,
Okay, thank you. So Director Murphy will be here, but
correct.
at, okay, at 9:40.
Around 9:40.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Well, I'm thrilled that we're all here in person, and thank you to the members of the audience that have taken the time to be here as well. This is great, so welcome. Yeah. So at this time, we would like to welcome the members of the public who have taken the time to attend this meeting and provide comments on matters related to district business. Any item of the public, or any member of the public may address the board relating to any matter within the board's jurisdiction. This need not be related to any item on the agenda. However, the board cannot act on an item unless it was noticed on the agenda. Persons speaking during the public comment will be limited to 5 minutes, or depending on the number of persons wishing to speak, it may be reduced to allow all members of the public the opportunity to address the board. So at this time, is there any member of the public in our audience? No? Okay. Well, Corey, is there any member on our Zoom audience?
Not at the moment, no.
Great. So with that, we will close the public forum and we will move to the consent calendar. And Melissa, will you please read the items on the consent calendar?
Okay, item number 1, minutes of the regular board meeting of April 12th, 2022. Item number 2, authorization to declare surplus property. And item number 3, investment report as of March 31st, 2022.
Thank you. Is there any director that would like to pull one of these or more items for discussion? Seeing none, any member of the public wish to discuss one of these items or more? Okay. Corey, is there anyone in our Zoom audience?
Not at this time.
Okay, well, if there's no further comments or discussions, then I will ask for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I would second that motion.
Thank you. So it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none. Melissa, will you wanted to do a roll call vote, or should we just all say, I can just say all those in favor, say aye.
Absolutely.
In these types of meetings, we should still do a roll call. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jesse. Okay, Melissa, will you do a roll call?
Okay, President Balin,
Aye.
Director Boatwright,
Aye.
Director Kearns,
Aye.
Director Murphy is currently absent, and Director Ringen.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes 4-0.
Okay, thank you. Now on to regular business. Melissa, will you please read our first item, and then I will read my opening statement.
Okay, item number 4 is a public hearing, is the 4th public hearing, board to review new mapping of proposed district-based election boundaries of the electoral districts.
Okay. So Jesse, I'll be happy just to follow with my opening comments unless you wanted to say something first. You okay? All right, great. So this is the time and place for a public hearing to review the new mapping of proposed district-based election boundaries of the electoral districts. So staff, would you care to provide a summary of the presentation and any relevant materials?
Jesse?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, President Balin, Don. Yeah, I just would like to make some introductory comments as well about this item, just to make sure the board understands precisely what needs to happen if it's going to adopt a map during this, after this hearing. And so what I'll do is, I'm going to read through the summary recommendation in your staff report. I'll paraphrase some of it. And primarily the reason why I want to do that is just give the board an opportunity to ask me any questions about this agenda item or the process that this agenda item has to follow. So this is going to be the fourth and last legally required public hearing to complete the transition from at-large elections to district-based elections. By the conclusion of this hearing, I'd like each board member to identify a preferred map, if they have one, the reasons for that preference, and the potential sequence of future elections to preserve the staggered nature of the board's terms. The actual decision and selection of a particular map and election sequence by formal motion will not occur until the next agenda item. This is just the public hearing portion, and by the end of this public hearing, I'd like to hear from the board to see if there's consensus, at least, on a particular map and sequence. And then if there is, then the hearing can close, and we will go on to the next agenda item, which would be a formal motion and approval of a particular map and a sequence. And unless there are questions for me from the board, I open up the public hearing, or as Barbara Balin already did, the public hearing is open for comment.
Okay, thank you, Jesse. And with that, I know this is meeting number 4 of our public meeting, so we have, all of us taken a look at these maps and considered how they're divided up. I know some of us have, it's been very important to keep the communities of interest as whole as possible. I know that becomes kind of tricky when we factor in and pull in the numbers that each district needs to be pretty well equal in population. So with that, is there any further discussion, any preference of map? Jesse said it was okay if we get the board to, each director can say a map that they prefer at this time. However, we're not going to vote on it until the next agenda item. That's correct?
Correct.
Okay. Anyone want to start out with comments or map preferences?
I'll start out if you want.
Okay.
With a question first. Melissa, have we gotten any input other than Twain Harte CSD?
We have not.
Okay, thank you. So, as I said at the last meeting, I've studied these maps in depth, taken a lot of time, and it was kind of confusing and all that. And I was kind of stuck on map number 3 until I heard from Twain Harte CSD at the last meeting, and they were really against map 3 because it divided Twain Harte somehow. And then I listened to Director Kern's thoughtful remarks, and he was leaning towards map 4 at that time. And at this point in time, map 4 is my selection.
Thank you.
I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board? Go ahead, Director Kearns.
Yeah, just as a tag along there to Director Ring, that's true. I do lean towards map number 4. I think although none of these are perfect, and I think we knew that going in that it was going to be that way, but number 4, I believe, keeps the historical communities of our service area intact, for the most part. And that's why I lean towards draft number 4.
Thank you. And keep in mind that when the census comes in again within a decade, then I'm sure that next board will have worked with this then for a decade, will be able to make any revisions. So this is, we're just launching this at this point. So I'll just speak up. I have looked extensively at these maps. The communities of interest were very important to me. And it does come down, like Jeff said, none of these are perfect. But we are listening to how important it is to keep our communities whole as best we can. We hear you. And in that respect, I think draft 4 does that the best. Any comments, Director Boatwright?
No, not at this time. I think I could agree with that number 4.
Okay. So with that, the next thing I need to ask is what Director Ring asked is, were there any written comments?
We just the one that we received from Twain Harte Community Services District. No other comments were received.
Okay, thank you. Great. So then, any member of the public that wish to comment? Yes. Director Simperly.
Thank you. Gary Simperly, President of the Twain Harte CSD Board. This is probably going to beat the dead horse. But our board did discuss this, so I am speaking on behalf of the Twain Harte CSD. And we have 3 specific requests. One, as you might imagine, is to keep the Twain Harte CSD whole, not split it up. I couldn't tell from the maps. The maps that I saw online were too nebulous. I couldn't see where the lines were drawn. But I urge you to be very careful about splitting us up. We need to be a whole community. And just generically, we ask that communities be kept whole. There's only one city in the county, but there are specific communities around, and to the extent that it's humanly possible, try to keep those communities whole. And the third request that we have is to guarantee that at least one representative on this board, on the future board, come from the upper communities, uphill.
Thank you.
And that's, as I said, I know that Tom has talked to you, Barbara, and it's very important to us that those 3 things happen. And I appreciate your effort.
Thank you, and us as well.
Hi, I'm Eileen Mannix. I'm also on the board, but I'm here as a private citizen. And I spoke last time. I think I was the only member of the public here speaking. But one of the things I forgot to say that I really wanted to say is we all feel it's important to keep communities whole, but we have an added reason is we as a community are also a customer of yours, where the other communities, everyone's individual customers of yours. So we think that's an added argument to keep us whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Eileen. Appreciate it. Is there?
Can I ask them a question?
Yes, go ahead.
To either one of you or both of you, so does that mean you favored map 4 or map 3, or was there a map of yours that you liked?
We would be fine with 3 as long as it carved out the Sherwood Forest is now divided from the other. So we heard last time that these weren't completely set, that the mapping people were still could make adjustments. So if that's possible, if you could adjust any of the maps to keep us whole, we have no problem with them. We don't really have a preference as long as we're whole.
Okay, so Sherwood Forest is in your service
Yes.
district?
Unless you'd like to take it over.
We're happy to suggest that.
I think that's a no.
But it's important to us because we are pretty much one customer.
Okay, one other question. How far towards Cedar Ridge does Does your
It does
service-
not include Cedar Ridge.
I know it, but how far in that direction does it go?
It goes down, Fuller Road, what's the,
I believe it's Red Wing.
Redwood,
Like Virginia.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, right in that.
Okay,
It's pretty close to Twain Hart downtown.
all right. Thank you.
It's, yeah.
TUD.
I would hope the professional company that you folks hired, at least has a map of the CSD so they would know what they were not splitting up.
It looks like with map 4. Oh, I thought I shut my phone off. Sorry about that, you guys. I could have sworn I done that. Apologize.
Here's Sherman Forge right here.
Yeah, look, it looks like,
From what I could see, 4 was okay.
Yeah,
but-
sure.
But it was hard on the computer. My
Yeah.
iPad's been-
Yeah, it appears here on, I'm looking at the Google Maps version on my computer here, and it appears in draft number 4, Sherwood Forest is included with Twain Hart. Now, the surrounding area is going up Confidence Road and up above Sherwood Forest to the east and across Swallowny Road north to the west. Those two get carved out, but Sherwood Forest proper appears to be within the boundaries of District 4.
I'm not sure if we're looking at the exact same things, Jeff, but Sherwood Forest, the homes in Sherwood Forest straddle both sides of Turnback Creek there. And so I can't see roads, for instance, on.
Oh, yeah, if you zoom in, you can.
So-
And yeah, there's one little extension that gets carved out that's split off on the right.
Yeah.
I see that now. Yep, I thought it had them all, but it doesn't. There is one section there, probably 20 homes.
I would like, can I ask the board a question?
go, please, yeah, back up to the podium.
My question would be, if we did get split, how is the board going to represent one customer with 2 different districts? In those 2 directors, if one represented Sherwood Forest and one represented Twain Hart, that's 2 different board members representing the same customer.
However, the person in that area. Okay, I know it's hard to see, but so somebody from the Tuolumne Standard portions of Solzhenville, Camp Ernest, and Sherwood would represent this whole area, which did include those interests as well.
Right, but all the other communities, they're individual customers, where we as a CSD are a wholesale customer, so we're one customer, as the way we see it from here.
And
So
you
2
feel that-
different directors would literally have some of this, you understand?
Well, that's true also with the ditch system. I mean, I guess I appreciate
We
the
feel
comments.
unique in that we are a customer, not our customers aren't your individual customers, they're ours. And we're one customer of yours. So if you divide us, 2 directors are going to be representing the same customer.
President Balin,
Yes,
if I may offer a perspective here. If that is in fact true, that Twain Hart CSD is going to be split, one way of looking at it is that Twain Hart CSD will have double the representation on the TUD board, which I don't think would be necessarily a bad thing. They'd have 2 perspectives, 2 board members to discuss their concerns with rather than one. There's nothing wrong, there's nothing unlawful about having 1 or 2, but perhaps having 2, looking at it from a different perspective, might be better than 1.
We're we're just, we understand that, we're just saying our preference is to have
Yeah,
one.
and
Uh-huh.
again,
Thank you.
our board has made it very clear that we would like to be in one district. Your point is well taken, but we would rather have one representative, assuming that Twain Harte is gonna be one of the larger entities in whatever district this is. I don't think it would be reasonable to split it up and have a little bit of Twain Harte be represented by somebody who might not care nearly as much about that little piece of Twain Harte as it is for somebody who represented the entire district. I think it's, and yeah, again, it's our board's request that our whole district be kept whole. And to whatever extent you can make that happen, we would be very grateful.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Director Ringen.
Since the very beginning, when we started down this road, there's been this misconception that just because we're going to go to district elections, that the person in that certain area is only going to be representing and pushing for things for the people in that area. This board is a 5-director board. Nothing happens here unless it's a 3, 2, 4, 1, or 5-0 vote, period. So nothing's gonna change. Everything is exactly the same. It's just how the board is elected. Board directors are elected. So let's not lose sight of the fact that it's a minimum of 3-2 by the entire board in order to make things move forward. So if indeed 20 homes of Sherwood Forest are cut out, they're not going to lose any kind of representation whatsoever. It still takes a 3-2, 4-1, or 5-0 vote by this board in order to make something happen, period.
Thank you. I appreciate those comments. Yes, Director Kearns.
Yeah, and Mr. Sibberly, I sympathize, I do. And that plays to the comment I made earlier. None of these darn things are perfect, they just aren't. I'm looking here at how we could keep Twain Harte whole, and map 4 does a pretty good job. There's about, looks like about 20 homes that get carved out. But on the others, one of them splits Twain Harte almost in the middle. And then there is one that keeps Twain Harte completely whole, but then we're splitting Sonora and we're splitting Jamestown and a couple others. So it's, again, none of these are perfect. And we'll do our best to accommodate your wishes.
If I may ask another question, at the last meeting, if I remember correctly, the contractor who drew the maps said that they could tweak these. Has anybody talked to them about doing that?
Yes, and looking at those maps, they have the capability to aggregate populations and look at population centers, and where it gets very almost near impossible is when you have to pull in and grab the numbers. You have to grab the populations, and there is no perfect solution to this. So that's, I think, like the director said, none of them are perfect. I don't think anybody's gonna be 100% happy with this, because then you get in and impacting some of those other areas and dividing them up. I think that the division that sort of divides East Sonora was the least painful. But I believe with Director Ring, and this has been true with every single board I've talked to that already has division-based, they vote as one. So there is a certain amount of representation and interest, but everybody considers everything fairly.
Yeah, and if I may, I'm confident that whoever gets elected from whatever district will take the good of the entire population at heart. I just think there's something to be said for, the general concept of keeping communities whole. And as Eileen said, that we are one customer. We, unlike a lot of, a lot of other places.
The concern was raised by one of your board members last meeting. Our concern, they raised the question about representation and not being able to represent a whole. So that's where we got the concern.
Welcome, Director Murphy.
Thank you.
Okay.
We do have two people on Zoom with comments. Tom will be first and then Fabian after Tom.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, everyone. Tom Trott, General Manager, Twain Harte Community Services District. I just want to add to Director Zipperly and Director Manick's comments as well. And first of all, I just want to thank you all for this effort because I know it is an impossible effort, especially when you're having to keep the populations the same in every district. That's very, very difficult and it gives very interesting lines. But I want to point out that I think the overall exercise here and moving forward in this direction to district provides better representation all the way around. So even though they may not be perfect, it is better than what it is now. And I'm not saying at all and that it's not good now. But for example, right now, the upper basin is not guaranteed a representative, and the upper basin is different than the lower basin. And so, what the way going forward and the way that even almost all of these maps are, it almost guarantees that the upper basin at least has one representative to discuss those issues and to represent those issues. And so, yes, map 1, I think, is the only one that keeps Twain Harte CSD whole. However, map 4 does a pretty good job as well. I think, as you mentioned, Director Ringen, it might cut out maybe 20 homes out of Sherwood Forest, but most of Sherwood Forest is in that. And so from my perspective, I think map 4 probably does the best job. Again, as people have mentioned, it's not perfect, but I do want to just bring it back to that this is much better for Twain Harte CSD and the upper basin than it is now.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate that. And who's next?
Fabian?
Morning, everybody. I just wanted to kind of clarify some of the comments that were made. So when we drew these maps, by the way, Fabian with Redistricting Insights are the ones who were drawing the maps, in case anybody doesn't know. When we drew these maps, these were indeed draft maps. These were intended to give the board something to think about, something to understand as possible directions to move. It wasn't necessarily our intention to say, these are the lines you have to use. This is what you have to do. So when we drew things like, for instance, in that Sherwood Forest area in the map you're referencing where we draw out 20 homes, that wasn't an intentional move to say, oh, let's cut that little part of Sherwood Forest out. It was more, we were just following lines to try to get to, some sort of semblance of a districted map that would look okay. We always encourage with all of our clients, anytime we've done this with districting or redistricting, whenever we present maps, especially draft maps, we always encourage the board to tweak them where they see fit, provided it doesn't, blow up the total deviations of the map. With regard to that, in your particular instance, you have roughly 480 people would be a 5% deviation. Okay, so that if you think about it, we tend to typically like to do less than 5% over or under. That means if you have 20 homes that in the Sherwood Forest area that you wanted to move to, clean it up and add them to the other district, that's well within the realm of possibility for it to not actually affect really the deviations or cause this map to be an illegal map or anything like that. So we can definitely do that. In fact, I usually encourage when the board goes to take a vote on a map that they allow the draft demographers, us, to do any cleanup that might be necessary. For instance, sometimes we'll be drawing and we'll have like a little piece, a little block we'll cut down off a road that has no people in it. And the reality is we can just clean that up. So we always encourage the board to leave us that leeway at the end in order to make sure that these lines look as clean as possible, follow the roads wherever possible, and don't, cause any problems. But I just wanted to mention that because I know there's some concern about Sherwood Forest in particular, and I wanted to mention that if it really is only a few homes, likely would not cause a problem if you were to move them into another district, depending on, or division rather, depending on how you want to do it.
Thank you, Fabian. Would the board be amenable to that kind of cleanup for that, to make that district as whole as possible on map number 4? Go ahead, Director Raymond.
I don't have a problem with it as long as it doesn't cause us a delay. I want this over with today.
Thank you. You okay? Or,
I tend to agree with Director Regan.
okay, that sounds good. All right. Thank you, Fabian. Yes, Director Murphy.
So first, my apologies for being late. I was teaching over at forestry class this morning. Where are we at on this? Have you guys decided on which draft set of maps you're going with?
We're, yes, and there's a consensus. We're on agenda item 4, and the consensus is for map number 4. It sounds like with some adjustment.
So I think on map number 4, if I'm correct, on that, does that split up Sonora, the city of Sonora?
I don't think so. I think that,
Because the concerns that I was hearing from folks in Sonora was that they were looking more towards map 2 and 3 because that kept the what they thought was like users together for the city of Sonora, and that 1, 4, and 5 didn't do as good of a job on that.
what makes it tricky is to keep them whole and grab outlying populations to keep things whole. So that, yeah, that's where we are.
The other thing that was pointed out with,
Excuse me?
I'm sorry, the other thing that was pointed out with draft number 2 and 3 is that each of the, specifically in 3, that each of the areas, so each of those 5 districts that were created would have part of the treated water system in them. And that wasn't the case with some of the others.
Thank you. Yes, go ahead, Director Prince.
Yeah, Director Murphy, you mentioned draft 1, that definitely splits Sonora, it goes right down Washington Street. Draft 2 pretty much keeps Sonora whole,
Yeah,
looks
2
pretty
and
good.
3 were the ones.
It does encroach on the east side, down to near the Junction Shopping Center there. Actually, Timber Hills in that area. Draft 3 does a very good job keeping Sonora whole.
That was.
And draft 4 does as well too. It goes up along Bald Mountain.
It
and
does a
then,
weird thing that goes out into.
Goes all the way out to East Sonora.
It goes out to Columbia, not Columbia, but Rye, not all the way out to Rye, but out that direction, right?
It does, yeah, it takes in, the out past the high school, Shaw's Flat Road,
Yeah, so just the feedback I was getting
west side
from
of
people was
49.
they felt that 2 and 3 kept Sonora more intact than the others.
Is there any further discussion from the board? Any other comments from the public before I close the hearing?
Not at the moment, no.
Okay,
I have one more comment, and that's
Go
just the
ahead,
same
please.
comment that I've made before, that I feel that from the beginning, and I will just continue voicing this, and I know it's not the way we're going, but that I feel keeping it as an intact district, I understand what Tom Trott said about the upper part of the district feeling unrepresented. But from a board perspective, I think it's very important that the board is looking at the whole TUD system as a whole. And that is a worry that I have with fragmenting the directors by district is having folks more focused on a special interest than on the whole system. And I think with water and with sewer and with reclaimed water, all of that, it's just so important to look at the whole system and to treat it as a whole system, not as different components within that. with that, and in that system, when we're looking at the strategic plan, when we're looking at how we're prioritizing things, when we're looking at how we're bringing services to our customers across the board, that I think it's very, very important that each director is expected to look at the district as a whole as we move forward. And that's what I'd like to see as we move forward.
That's, thank you, understood. Yes, Director Raymond.
Well, we're, first of all, we're talking about which map, nothing else. Number two, as I just said before you got here, that this is a 5-member board. Nothing happens unless it's a minimum of 3-2, 4-1, or 5-0. So we are going to look at things as a whole, no matter where we are. And no one director, just because they get elected in a certain district, is going to then represent just the people in that district. It has to be a 5-member vote. So what you're talking about does not apply, period. And don't, I'm talking.
Okay, but you're talking,
I'm talking. So the ditch system is throughout the entire county. And when we take over PG&E, when we do the PG&E acquisition, that's going to be the entire county. So it's not that one director, just because they're in one area, is going to only support things that has to do with that little area. It's going to take 5 members vote in order to get something to go, period. Okay, I'm done.
Okay, thank you. Yes, one more comment before I
and
close.
just because, you generally in parliamentary procedure, you don't talk against someone, you just present your own position. But since my position has been pushed on, I'm going to push back on that, which is, we see it over and over again in politics, we all know it. That as someone who is being elected by a particular interest group, your voters expect you to represent the interests of that section. It's how you get elected. So on this, I think it's just, I'm asking for a conscious decision of this board, because many of us will stay on the board as others are cycling. And they're just that thing of making sure that as individuals that we are keeping the whole district, the whole TUD, all of the systems, all of the pieces involved, and that we're setting a precedent for that continuing in the future, even with districting. Because I think anytime we see districting, we do see, like with the supervisors, that each one ran on a different thing. One ran on fire, one ran on roads, one ran on affordable housing, because those were interests in that particular part of our county. And it's what happens. That's how the system works. So just making sure as we're moving forward, my piece to us is that as a board and as TUD and as the general manager to keep the board focused on the whole system, bringing in the interests of all the different areas, but as a group working for the best for the whole county and the best for the whole system.
Thank you, Director Murphy.
We do have Jesse with his hand up with a comment.
Excuse me?
Jesse has his
Okay,
hand up
thank
with a
you.
comment.
Go ahead, please, Jesse.
Thank you, President Balin. It sounds to me before the board closes the public hearing that there is a consensus favoring the 4th draft map. However, that's only half of what we need to decide during this hearing. The other half is the sequence of future elections to preserve the staggered nature of the board terms. If there is a consensus on the 4th draft map, what I would like to do is just state my understanding of which of the current directors reside in which district. And then based on my understanding of draft map, I think the sequence of elections is going to be it's going to automatically, it's going to take care of itself. Because it's we have Ron Ringen and we have Jeff Kearns up for election at the end of this year, 2022. And then we will have Directors Balin, Murphy, and Boatwright up for election in 2024. I have, according to my notes, Director Ringen is in District 1 of the 4th map. Director Kearns is in the 4th district in the 4th draft map. So they reside in different districts, and that would be easy to accommodate if they're both running for, if both of their seats are up in 2022. The way this would work is that Districts 1 and Districts 4, those elections will be held in 2022. And then on my information, I have, as I indicated earlier, Directors Murphy, Boatwright, and Balin are all in one district, which means that there are 2 districts without elections, without directors currently on the board. And so that would mean then in 2024, districts 2, 3, and 5 will be up for election in 2024. And so if there's any disagreement with how I outline this, if anybody has any different information, please let me know. Because if that's not the current state of affairs, I need to know that so that we can plan, so that we can discuss sequence of elections. But if it is accurate, then that is how I propose the sequence of future elections be held. Districts 1 and 4, 2022, and the remainder of the districts in 2024. Thank you.
I just wanted to add to that part of what Jesse was saying. The numbering we have on there, if you wanted our District 4 to be renumbered as 3 and then the 3 to be 4, that way you had 1 and 3 being up in 22, we can definitely do that. These numbers aren't set in stone. They're just, ideas.
Let's not change the numbers right now. Let's stick with the numbers. Otherwise, we're going to have between 5 maps and 5 different districts. We have a multitude of mixtures here. Let's stick with the current numbers. Thank you, Fabian.
Thank you. Great. I see, yes, Gary.
Yeah, if I may, for Director Murphy's benefit, I would just like to reiterate something that Eileen said earlier. And unlike the rest of your customers, Twain Harte is one customer. We're a wholesale customer. And for that reason, we have requested as strongly as we possibly can that we be kept whole. Okay, that's all I wanted to do.
Thank you. All right. If there is no further, if there is nothing further to be presented relating to this item.
One more thing.
Okay, go ahead, Jeff.
Just an add-on to Jesse's comments there. I don't remember, it's been a while now, but I did go through each map, and I don't believe there was a map, there was a draft that currently had 1 director in each district. Is that correct, Jesse? Do you agree with me on that?
I couldn't.
So my point is we've got an overlap on all the drafts, right? Yeah.
Pretty much.
Because somebody asked me that, that's why I'm bringing that up.
Yeah,
So,
I think that there's a big difference on the drafts between, at least where Director Balin and I cross over. I think most of them, we are not in the same district, and in map draft 4, I know we are. Just because I know we're going this way.
All righty. Well, if there is nothing further, then I'll declare the public hearing closed. And this was informational, and we will then move on to the voting portion of this in the next item. Melissa, will you please read the next item?
Okay, item number 5, board to consider and possibly approve a new map providing for district-based elections and the sequence of future elections.
Okay, Jesse, you want to
Yes, please. Thank you, President Balin. Sure. It sounded like from the prior public hearing that the board, there is generally a consensus coalescing around the fourth draft map. There was concern expressed by Twain Hart, CSD, that there's one element of the fourth draft map where perhaps a line can be straightened as part of a cleanup. I do not view that as redrawing the map. It's not going to have, based on what Mr. Valdez has indicated, it's going to, a few homes is not going to change the outcome, the population outcome by that much. So if there is a clear consensus, or if there is a motion to approve the fourth draft map, we can do that here. This is the appropriate agenda item under which to do that. And part of this process, however, is if the board does adopt the fourth draft map and the sequence of elections, as I outlined it during the hearing, which would be districts 1 and 4 in the fourth draft map up for election in 2022, and districts 2, 3, and 5 up for election in 2024. If that is the board's wish, a motion could be made. There is a template of a motion in your agenda package that you could use, a board member could use in preparing their motion to make sure they have all the information in it. And then what will happen is, under the elections code as well as under the water code, it requires that the board formally adopt this by ordinance, the new map, the district-based elections, and the sequence of election by ordinance. And under the water code, this board has to publicly make that ordinance available 5 days before its adoption. And so that means that true adoption, the true transfer from at-large elections to district-based elections will occur at the May, I believe it's the May 9th meeting, and that will occur by ordinance. And I am unable to draft the ordinance before this meeting because I didn't know which district the board was, or which map the board was going to choose. And I also didn't know the correct sequence of elections. So if there is a decision on that, but I have a draft ordinance prepared, I will insert the correct information. I will provide it to Melissa. That ordinance will become publicly available in a few days, a minimum of 5 days before adoption. And we will make sure it's ready for adoption at the board's May 9th meeting. And unless there are questions for me, I welcome a motion if a board member is willing to make one.
I have a question.
Please.
Just real quick. So this motion will allow for me to make those cleanup spots before the ordinance is adopted, correct?
If the board includes it in the motion, if a board member includes it in the motion to straighten the one element in to straighten the Sherwood Forest, I'm not quite sure what we want to call that, just straighten that one boundary, then that would be included in the motion, Fabian.
I would ask the board to make it slightly less specific to Sherwood Forest and saying, you can say Sherwood Forest, but also include any minor cleanup on roads that might not affect there's, for instance, in draft 4, I've looked at it, there's a part in Jamestown where one little tiny finger comes down where there's no people living in it off of the State Road 108. Little things like that I would like to clean up for you. So if you would allow that in the motion for me to clean up little pieces that would put things back in order, I would appreciate that.
The way I interpret then Fabian's suggestion is, what Fabian is asking for is a little bit of flexibility to increase the compactness of these. Okay, I'm getting a nod. Okay. Any necessary cleanup to increase the compactness of these districts, which is part of the election code criteria. So I don't see a problem with that. And so, was there?
No, thank you. Director Kearns.
Yeah, Jesse, I got a question for you. So let's assume for a second that that a motion is made to clean this up, to absorb Sherwood Forest into the other district that represents Twain Hart as a whole. What does that do to our timeline?
I don't think that what we're talking about are minor cleanup changes. I don't think it constitutes a complete redraw of the map that would require a fifth public hearing, Director Kearns.
Okay, all right, thank you.
That sounds good. So the motion would go in with minor cleanup
To increase compactness.
to increase compactness. Yes, Director Murphy, go ahead,
And then
please.
that would come back to the board for final approval.
I don't think that would be necessary.
I
It's
did,
just allowing him to do his job.
I
Go ahead,
said,
Jesse.
so Jesse, my comment was, and then that would come back to the board for final approval.
not the cleanup, no. Fabian, when you do the cleanup, do you typically have a fifth public hearing? Is that commonplace?
No, in most cases where we've done cleanup, there have been instances where boards have opted not to do cleanup. But in pretty much every case where we have done cleanup, the map was voted on with cleanup kind of added in the motion. And then that is what's in their final ordinance. That's typically the way it's done. So I would do those little cleanup pieces, nothing that would affect the overall deviation. It might move 5-10 homes here or there. It might move an area that looks large but has zero population just to clean up things. But basically doing that just increases compactness, makes the maps kind of cleaner, more whole, and then it allows you to adopt to vote on the map now, but with those cleanups in lieu of those cleanups being on the final ordinance, essentially. Nothing that would affect the overall map, though.
Yeah.
Thank you.
President Balin, I might just ask that I can work with Tom Trott and Fabian on cleaning up.
I was just going to suggest
I'm
that.
very familiar with
Yes.
Trainard, so.
Yeah, great, thank you. All right. So let's see, there's already a motion if there's
No,
no,
there's no motion, is there?
no, there's a written language. And yes, I would definitely entertain a motion at this point. There's no further discussion.
Okay, I'll move that the district's general counsel prepare the necessary adopting ordinance that will formally adopt map number 4 with minor corrections that make Twain Harte Community Services District whole, including Sherwood Forest,
Rather than say with minor cleanup to increase compactness.
and to adjust and use those words you just said. I'm sorry.
Those were Jesse's words too.
Yeah.
Minor cleanup to
Minor
increase
cleanup to complete
compactness.
compactness, yes. As the district's new district-based electoral map, the districts
1 and 4.
Correct. Will be up for election in 2022, and districts 2, 3, and 5 will be up for election in 2024, and that the district council shall have this ordinance ready for adoption during the board's May 9th, 2022 special board meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Any members of the audience wish to comment? Thank you, yes. All right, so I'll bring it back to the board for a roll call vote. Melissa?
Okay, President Balin,
Aye.
Director Boatright,
Aye.
Director Kearns,
Aye.
Director Murphy,
Nay.
Director Ringan.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes 4-1.
Thank you. And I want to thank Twain Harte for their concern and consideration. This was a really tough call, so
We
thank you.
too.
I think your
Thank
voice
you
is
for
heard.
hearing us and
We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
it's very important to us, that we appreciate minor change.
Okay, Melissa, please read our next item of regular business.
Okay, item number 6, budget report and balance sheet for third quarter ending March 31st, 2022.
Okay,
I think I got it. Give me just one moment here. First time we've logged in this way. Everything work.
Good morning, everyone. Steve Sheffield, your Finance Director. On the agenda today, we have our quarterly budget report, financial report, consistent with how it's been presented to you in the past. So staff has prepared this combined budget report for the 9 months ending March 31st, 2022. The combined budget report compares the adopted budget versus the actual results. As far as this slide showing the total combined revenue, so again, consistent with what we've shown in the past, this is all the funds together, the water and sewer fund and internal service fund has been combined. The first column shows the current total adopted budget for the year, the fiscal activity for the 9 months so far, the variance between those two and the percent remaining. Total revenues received so far year to date, $19.2 million. If everything was equal, meaning all our revenue was earned at each month by month by month, we've gone 9 months, we would have 25% remaining. So you can see on the utility billing, it is somewhat seasonal, but we show 26 remaining. The other categories, those larger variances are essentially due to timing issues on there. But in total, we have 22% remaining on that. As far as the combined expenses, the total combined expenses so far, $11.6 million. Again, the percent remaining over there, personnel is obviously our largest expenditures. The difference there, a lot of that's due to our CIP labor. Any labor that's been doing by TUD employees is being charged to the actual project itself to be capitalized once we complete it. So far, there was about $678,000 related to that CIP labor. So that accounts for a significant part of the difference. The other differences are mainly seasonal and or timing issues. You know, we do a lot of work the last 3 months of the year with the weather and everything else kind of on that. So consistent with what we've shown you in the past, if you take the difference between those two, it's about $7.6 million. So far, we've invested over $10 million in our CIP. We have debt principal of $200,000, leaving a balance, projected balance right now of $2.8 million. If you remember at the time of budget adoption, we had actually budgeted for a $2 million deficit, mainly due to expectations of some grant funded projects, delays in projects, and a variety of those. This total right here includes grant funded projects in the amount of approximately $1.2 million so far. So the 2.8 subtract the 1.2 gets us to 1.6. So we're very close or consistent with that original budgeted projection on here. Really at this point, you know, we have 3 months left in the year. A lot of the purpose of these financial reports is to keep the board and the public informed as to what we're doing, if we're staying within budget, what our progress is in here. And we're doing all those things. And there's 3 months left, not a big room for making any radical changes or doing that. And really the focus, I believe right now, my recommendation should be for fiscal year 23. We're already working on the budget for 23 on a daily basis. We're getting new, you know, inflation reports, shortages of materials, you know, personnel hiring issues, all those things. So we're actively working on the projection and the budget for next year, which we are planning a budget workshop to hold that before the year end to have some time there. But I'd be happy to answer any questions in your packet. It looks a little bit different than this, but essentially the same thing in here. So, yes, Director Bailey.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. So question, remind me again where that money that we got for the consolidation, you know, the state gave us an extra, some incentive money, I guess. I don't know what to call it. Is, remind me again if that's a restricted fund or that just go, or where does that go?
Yeah, perhaps, Eric, can you address that better than I can?
Sure, the consolidation incentive, as the state deems it, is basically a carrot that they will give the district in response to our Curtis Creek Elementary School project. We're consolidating their water system, And that money will show up, we've designated it for the Ridgewood pipeline project, which will come in next fiscal year. And the amount is based on the average daily attendance at the school, and that number has bounced around. So I can't provide the board at this time an exact number, but we imagine it will be somewhere between 1.4 and $1.8 million.
Thank you.
And I think it's an important point to note out that, when we show grant revenue or we show that, almost all our grants now are reimbursement grants. Back in the old days, 20, 30, 40 years ago, they give you a grant, you go spend it and then send us back whatever you have. Well, they don't do that anymore. It's very, very rare. There's occasional program, but mostly so. In these numbers, it's going to be reflected if we've already spent it and submitted the reimbursement claim, then that's when it's going to show up on our revenue and expenses statements on there. But what you're talking about there, Eric and I have already talked about, when we go to do the budget for next year, we know we kind of have this credit out there for this incentive that will be applied to it, and we can take that into account, planning how much we have to actually come up out of pocket for these. So, anyone else? Director Ring.
My foggy memory, I don't recall about the Twain Harte sewer transmission line, the work that's being done on that, which is very positive. It's coming out really good. Was that actually in the CIP? No. That's what I
You're
thought.
talking about the Train Hard Interceptor assessment?
Yeah,
No, that's part of our O&M budget. Planning our O&M budget.
that's what I thought. Okay, but I mean, we're saving a ton of money on that from where we thought we were gonna be originally. And it's turning out really, really good, so.
Several years ago, we got a quote for about $1 million to do this.
All right. Okay, thank you. I was pretty sure it was not in the CIP, but I couldn't remember.
Any other comments for Steve? Okay, any member of the audience wish to comment?
Hello, Elena Linehan, ratepayer. I hate alphabet soup. What does CIP mean?
Capital
People
improvement
use
program.
different things. Some people say construction in progress, capital improvements, fixed assets. For us, anything that's over $50,000 and is going to be more than just a year. So for us, it's building things. If we have a new lift station, a pump, or anything else. So we tend to have an operating budget, and then we have what we refer to as the CIP budget. And that would be all the projects that we're working on, both water and sewer.
Thank you.
Yeah, certainly.
Good question.
Yeah, thank you, Lena.
Good question.
Corey, any member of the remote audience?
Not at the moment, no.
Thank you. So this is an accept and file report, so thank you, Steve. I think we need a motion, was that it? Recommendation is recommended that the board accept and file this report, so I guess it's a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you,
I'll second it.
thank you, it's been moved and seconded, any further discussion? Melissa, please call the vote.
Okay. President Balin,
Aye.
Director Boatright.
Aye.
Director Kearns,
Aye.
Director Murphy. Director Regan.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Let's see, we're on to item number 7, I believe. Marcy, want to read the item?
Absolutely. Item number 7, operational update on the water and wastewater departments for March 2022.
Good morning, everyone. Electoral Operations Director. I'm just going to go over each department this time. I'm not going to pick a page. The district's really busy. The crews are getting a lot of very, very good stuff done. It's hard to pick one thing right now. So raw water, training a new superintendent there. It's going very well. The staff has been key with that, helping him along. And, just kind of a very broad beginning for him. So that's going very well. And then they're also overlooking the spillway project at Phoenix Lake, which is going very well. So hoping into the week they'll be about wrapped up. We can get the flashboards in and start putting water in it in the next week or two, hopefully, which will be really good. So Water treatment, those guys obviously do a great job with what they're doing, a lot of work at Sonora Regional Water Treatment Plant with the ongoing project there, so it's very, very good. Distribution, the meter change outs are going very, very good there. They're picked that back up, meters are coming in, and that's good. And they're training with the treatment plant operators on taking over small hydro, which is taking pressure off the treatment plant operators so they can spend more time making water at the treatment plants and doing the projects they need to do there. So it's working out very, very well with them. Sewer treatment, just working with the old plant, making repairs as needed to get by, and then working with Kiewit a lot, the engineers with the new plant, which is going very, very well. Outfall starting with the irrigation this year, put a little extra pressure on them to keep going and getting that water out and keeping the ranchers happy. Collections, they're doing small repairs, putting clean outs in, keeping up with their flushing. Like you brought up, Ron, doing that good project with the interceptor there. It's a big project and it went very well. And construction maintenance, sewer lift stations, main lines, water leaks, small projects for every department, that we need to get done. So it's been very, very busy and it looks like it's gonna stay that way, which is very good. So, and then they've all been working on their budget, O&M budget and the CIP budget. So it's going good. They're busy, we're busy. So that's all I have.
Yes, Director Ringham.
Got a couple questions. With all the work that's been done out there at the Phoenix Lake Reservoir, do we have a way to measure the water that gets released at the dam down Salden Creek?
Yes.
Okay, so we know exactly how many acre feet or whatever we allow to escape that reservoir.
Yeah, I wouldn't say exactly, but we have it very close.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what's happening with the partial flumes? Is there facts and figures being collected and maintained as to what's going on throughout the ditch system?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Glenn's working on that. We've had some issues. The heads are getting old. It's a delta head and they're slowly starting to fail. It's what we used then, and they use very little power on the solar sites, which was really good. And we're struggling finding something that uses that little power. So we're anywhere we have power, we're putting a pulsar in and pulling that delta head and putting it in where there's a solar site. So we've had a few go down. We've had a few sites get vandalized, so they're working on them, getting those back up to speed so we can keep collecting that data.
I hate to hear that vandalized.
It's frustrating.
I mean, I was out to watch some of those get installed with the crews, and that was my concern right out the gate, because they're in places a lot of times that are, I won't say remote, but people aren't watching them.
Right.
And they just look like they were easy target for vandals.
Yeah.
So, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Director Kern, sorry, I didn't mean to catch a mid slurp there.
Okay. Yeah, Eric, I'm looking at your report here and you've got a couple pages on ignition, edge hub and spoke. And this looks like the Columbia Water Treatment Site. Is this just the Columbia Water Treatment Site, or do you have, I take it is this what you see when you pull it up on the web and control it?
Yes.
So
And
is
I
this-
think that was more of a, for which Columbia's done, but then for Sonora Regional,
Oh, okay.
or the Sonora Water Treatment Plant, sorry, that's
So we're moving towards this for all of our sites.
slowly.
Slowly, yeah, I'm sure it's,
Not all of them, but all of the smart plants. Yeah, all the ones that don't plan to consolidate anytime soon. We wouldn't deploy this kind of technology, say Ponderosa or Lakewood. These treatment plants are in bad shape and going to be consolidated.
gotcha. Yeah, that was my next question. So, yeah, this is pretty interesting software here. I'd like to see it firsthand, maybe when I could.
It is, I got to go on a tour last week with Trevor Town, and we started at Ponderosa Hills, and went over the daily routine there, and then went to Tuolumne. When they sat down at the desk and popped it up on a computer screen, it was very interesting, and it saves them a ton of time.
I'm sure it does. Good job, thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Any other director? Yes, Director Murphy.
So I had a question, Eric. You had said that staff was getting trained on small hydro. Could you speak a little more to that?
So in the Ponderosa system, the water treatment plant operators treated the water, checked the tanks, checked all the hydro systems that have the pumps, bladder tanks that pump up above the water tanks that we have now. So the distribution departments is slowly becoming a true distribution department where they're doing tank checks and they're doing daily and weekly checks on these hydro systems. So they'll check the pumps, they'll check the tank pressures, things like that, make sure it's all working and taking their notes like that. And it's slowly going to spread throughout the system.
And so that's a separation out of duties?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Director Boatwright.
Question for page 13 of the operations report. It's on the numbers for regional, Jamestown, and ports. Are these numbers are strictly for the month of March? As far as the, I see the ports reclamation system added totals in there. So, have a need for water.
Yeah, so I figured you'd ask. So today, courts is at 50.5. So last week helped, you know, the water that we're adding to that.
All right, very good.
Yes.
How much water are we adding to, from the wells to courts like this month?
We should be an acre foot a day, if not a little bit more.
Okay.
We,
And do you expect that to continue through, through basically the dry season, or are we expecting that we're gonna have to, up that?
we're gonna go as long as we can with it. We're using some water, spill water from, you know, from Phoenix Lake the best we can to get that water in there, and then some of the wells. When spill quits, we're not gonna use that water. We're not gonna supplement that down there. But the wells will keep going as far as we can, but if we start running into issues and need to put that in the distribution, then we'll have to revisit.
Okay, very good, thank you.
It's important to know, we still don't have the Millville well completely rehabbed yet. It's gone out to bid now, so it's getting there.
What's the expected sort of time trajectory on that?
I don't have one.
Gosh, I wanna say October-ish. Yeah, it's a big project.
That's that high capacity mill, or what we talked about in the past, correct?
High capacity, what I mean by that is, for us, you know, so it's just under 200 gallons a minute sustained yield, safe yield, but it has a basin underneath it, about 1,500 acre feet, large.
Yeah, my understanding of that well was in the initial phase before it started to drop down, you've got substantially more GPM. They all draw out of that well for a period of time and then stabilizes.
Any other comments for Eric?
I just have one more question.
Okay.
And that with the Millville, that's the one that's the grant funded drought project, and then is that going into the treated water system, or is that going into the quartz reservoir?
You can do either. We can either treat it, because there's a little treatment plant up there, and use it in distribution system if the drought persists or gets worse, or we can put it into the collection system, right, which will make its way to regional plan and then down to quartz.
Okay, very good, thank you for the
I
clarification.
wish we could get it right to quartz. For you guys to-
Then, maybe add to that, the Millville wells constituents, and it doesn't meet drinking water standard right out of it, the treatment that it has to go to.
I'm sorry, yeah, it's very high in iron and manganese, and so it has to be treated to make it potable.
Okay.
And I'm handing up that Abby to go over some stuff up in the bank stuff.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Yeah, thank you, Abby Parkman, Administrative Services Director. On page 14 of the report, while this employment development, career development, training, succession planning kind of falls under my department, it affects the majority of Eric's department in operations. And all of this awesome work that operations department is doing is partly because we have very highly trained certified staff And so with that, I'm really excited to announce, because now that the state is back in functioning a little bit more efficiently now with state testing on water treatment, water distribution, and wastewater treatment, we had a number of staff members who have obtained their certifications. So I just wanted to recognize them. Thomas Powell and Gino Pinocchio both have obtained their water distribution certifications, grade 1. They're fairly new employees, so we're excited to get them certified. In water treatment, we have Darren Valalunga, who obtained his grade 2 water treatment certification, and Keith Hockett, who obtained his grade 3 water certification. And in wastewater, Manuel Espino passed his grade 2 wastewater treatment certification, so we're excited for that, getting more certified staff down in wastewater. And Jeff Allen, who is an equipment mechanic for us, obtained his automated service excellence certification. Those are equipment mechanic, both heavy equipment and vehicle certifications, as well as his Class A commercial license. So really excited. We already have folks that have passed tests since we wrote this report, so we'll report that out next month. But just want to say great job to them. We work really close with the superintendents and the employees alike to get them going on their certifications, and we support that because it not only helps their own training and development and feeling confident when they're out there with our customers and doing this job that's so important, but it also helps them advance their careers. It helps the district to provide the best public health and safety that we can. Did I miss anything?
Thank you. Director Ringen.
So this is mostly to our general manager, but going along with what you're talking about, certifications, maybe just to inform the board as to just some of the forward thinking that you've put in place, how you have reorganized, I guess is what I want to say, the meter readers and how you're utilizing those folks now.
Sure, I'll try to be brief because this could go on and on, but in general, it's not just Don, it's working with Abby and the other department heads of trying to figure out, or make sure that we can always meet the needs of the day, right? The district is different than it was when we created 30 years ago. The industry is different. So naturally, staff has to change and meet the new needs. So what I'm getting at is each different department, like let's just say water treatment, water distribution, collections, wastewater treatment, they all have specific and unique certification required to perform their jobs for the state. In and around there are also utility type certifications, right? And so they're more broad, right? And so what we've tried to do is, in your one example, meter reader job classifications, we no longer have meter reader job classification, we have meter technician job classifications. Before, they weren't required to have distribution licenses. Today, they're required to have distribution licenses. This gives them the ability to, when they're caught up doing their meter reading, they can actually go out and work in the distribution system versus relying on the construction and maintenance crews to work on the distribution system for them, right? In some small way. So adding to that, years and years ago, we committed to, as fast as we can, get all of our meters transferred from manual read to auto read, right? We're about 60-some% now auto read. That alone has saved us at least a couple of days of months of utility work. Well, so those meter technicians can now take that time that they would ordinarily be used reading meters, now out there doing utility work in the distribution system. And similarly like that, we're doing that across all sectors of the district. So being more utility work, versatile.
Thank you.
Any other comments from directors? Okay, Abby, I want to thank you for your good work on keeping those guys certified, and that gives them career opportunities and lateral management, and everybody can fill in where everybody needs to. So great work there and improves our safety, so thank you.
Appreciate that work.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Any member of the public wish to comment on this? This is just a review only item. Any member from the Zoom? thing?
Not at the moment, no.
Okay, then that will conclude that item and we'll move on to item 8. Melissa?
Okay, Sonora Regional Wastewater Treatment Plant Progress Report.
Board, get this real quick here. All right, well, rounding out the bottom of the agenda here is your monthly update on the regional wastewater treatment plant project. Eric Johnson, district engineer. Normally Jennifer would be here to give you this presentation, but we're gonna probably not see Jennifer a whole lot just because this happens to coincide with the weekly meeting with the contractor. So she's down on the job site, usually full-time on Tuesdays. I'll be brief here. You've seen, this is the same format you have seen consistently, and the red sort of stars here are where there's active construction going on. We'd love to see some green checks soon, meaning we've actually completed something. We're getting close. I'll just, for your attention here, number 5 are the clarifiers. Those are those big concrete circular structures that you've seen going up. They really are, for all intents and purposes, probably 95% done. Contractors doing some work around the perimeter, installing what we call a mirror drain, just so that any water that would be exerting some pressure against the concrete tanks is properly drained. And then they've hydrostatic tested those clarifiers and they both passed. Next thing they'll be doing is forming up for the scum box, which is kind of up at top. So they're building the site back up and they're not going to form that until they get the ground level up to a convenient location there. Number 4, which is in between the two clarifiers here, is the south process station. And if you can see the plans on this, it's pretty impressive. It's a big concrete, multi-level structure that will house the valving and the pumps and whatnot. It goes down probably 18 feet, if you will, because we've got pumps at the very bottom that are pulling sludge out of the clarifiers, and those pumps operate best under some positive suction pressure. So that's a work that they'll be kind of bringing up as they go. So they've poured one wall and they poured a slab, and then as they build the site up with fill material, then they'll reform for the next pour. So there'll be a lot of work there for the upcoming weeks. Below that, number 6 is for our filtration gallery, and number 7 is the chlorine contact basin. I think Dawn mentioned this when we were on site one day. If you look at number 8 off on the side here, that's the existing chlorine contact basin. And the size of that, the footprint of that, and then compared to the footprint of the proposed new contact basin, and the new basin is going to be even deeper, gives you an indication of how much higher level of treatment and performance we will get out of this facility. Number 12 over here, if you drive down the highway, you'll see that they have taken which was our Pond A, we called it, and they've excavated down and moved a bunch of the material that came out of here has now been placed in Pond 1. They've still got probably 5 feet or so to continue to build up in Pond 1. And once they're able to do that and reach proper compaction, they can start excavating for footings for the administration building, which is A, and the solids handling building, which is B. One of the challenges we encountered was there was groundwater. I know Director Boatwright's aware of that, and we did anticipate some groundwater. It was a little higher elevation, I think, than we had anticipated when we started excavating in the emergency storage basin. So we had to go back and kind of work with the designer and rework the under drain system, because they will have a liner in there, and we don't want to have a bunch of water having pressure against that liner. So that's just one of the challenges we've been dealing with. On the financial side, we're at about 7.3 million, 7.4 million spent thus far out of the 42 million. I think the key thing we want to pay attention to here is that when we cross that $8.8 million threshold, the district has fulfilled its financial obligation for its own funds. Then the loan proceeds will kick in, 24.9 million in loan. And then at the very end of the job, and trust me, we will not be leaving any grant revenue on the table here. We'll tap into the grant at the end of the project. This dashboard, if you want to call it that, is just to give you a visual representation of the health of the finances as they relate to individual bins, legal, environmental engineering. As you can see, some of these are pretty well advanced. Legal isn't a large dollar amount, but most of that work was up front, working with Jesse to get the contract out for bidding and then executing the agreement with the contractor. Environmental, there's periodic monitoring, but not a lot left there. The one that we're paying attention to is on the engineering side. That is our consultant Pace is addressing what we call requests for information, requests for change orders. There really have been no change orders to date, but there's a lot of submittals, meaning submission of product information that they need to review to make sure they match the specifications. So we are keeping our eyes on that because, that seems a little disproportionate in terms of the progress of the project. Everything else looks pretty normal for us. And then a look ahead here. I kind of already addressed what's occurred thus far. They will be working on the footings for the buildings. They will continue to construct the new storage basin. They will be bringing some fill material from upslope down because we were short, and we have plenty of land in which we can get some additional fill material. They will continue to work on some of the influent sewer lines coming in, and they'll work on the south process station. As I said, it's multi-level, and that's a good summary of what we've got. A few photos to share with you. This is courtesy of Gadiel DiMattei in the engineering department. He flies the drone. And I believe at this time, you can see the clarifier was full. That was part of the hydrostatic testing. Fill that up and monitor it, make sure there's no leaks. You can see the emergency storage basin and this material being hauled over. They had big haul trucks over into this area. And then all the while, the existing plant continues and operating. Nice aerial view of the clarifiers, and then you can really clearly see the outline of the filter gallery and the chlorine contact basin, and then you can also see the forming for that south process station. Some earthwork, and then some of the form and rebar work there also for the chlorine contact basin. I think that is it. Happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Director Rainey.
So I've got a couple of questions. So we are going to end up with again with a chlorine contact chamber. Is part of that exposure to the chlorine to continue as it goes down the pipe to ports? Or is it all going to occur right there?
It will all occur right there.
Okay.
The facility is designed to do all of the contact on site.
Okay, and then if you can, in a couple sentences or something like that, from the old plant to the new state-of-the-art plant, the new one is going to turn out tertiary treated water, correct?
Correct.
What's the difference? Just very simply, I mean, you could probably go for days as to what the differences are between the two, but what gets us at the new treatment plant to tertiary treated water from the old plant?
Yeah, there's probably two critical things that Director Boatwright could add on. Two things are turbidity. There's a turbidity requirement under Title 22 California code, right? There is certain criteria that have to be met. One is turbidity, and the specific turbidity threshold I don't have off the top of my head right now, but that's where the filters will come in. The second aspect of that is what they call most probable number. It is an indication of the bacteriological contamination in the water leaving the plant. And this, our current plant is an MPN 23, meaning most probable number 23 per 100 mils organisms per 100 mils. The new one will be 2.2. So it'll be, you know, essentially 10 times higher or lower in bacteriological contamination, and it will also have a turbidity requirement that the current plant does not have.
Okay, thank you for that. And then my final question is, well, there's two parts to this. Will the ranchers be able to take down those signs, those warning signs? That's number one. And then going along with that, where will Jamestown Sanitary District fall into this? Because we're gonna put some high quality water down there in the courts. What about their new plant?
Yeah, those are all good questions. The answers will be fleshed out over the period of the next 12 months in our submission of a permit application for new waste discharge requirements and a new permit for the reclamation system to the State Water Board. We've already submitted our first draft. That permit will tell us if we need to keep the same signage requirements, if they will remove the signage requirements, what the setback requirements will be, all those restrictions that you heard about at the rancher, barbecue, if you will, those will be revised. So yeah, that's part of it. Now in Jamestown, we have made a proposal to the state that would allow Jamestown to operate their current plant. They have a tertiary filter there, operate their filtration system, and have the whole system be considered tertiary. If that proposal is not accepted, there are a few other measures we've been in discussion with Jamestown about that could be done in order to reach compliance. And then the third option would be that we would have a tertiary upper zone and a secondary lower zone with our reclamation system. That's not preferred, so we're working with the State Water Board and the Division of Drinking Water on what the permit will look like. Sorry for a long-winded answer.
No, that's good. Thank you.
Yes, Director Murphy.
Do a follow-up on that. So I was talking to the Jamestown folks, and right now they said they had 90% secondary and 10% tertiary as far as the water that they're putting out. Does that sound right?
They have the capacity. I don't know. If you got that information directly from them, I would rely on what they told you. But their rated capacity of their tertiary filter is real close to their average daily flow, meaning that they could almost produce 100% tertiary water most days. But, obviously during a rainstorm or, some high wastewater period, they wouldn't be able to. And so that's part of the nuance of the permit application that we have with the state is how do you deal with those few days a year where it exceeds their tertiary filter capacity.
And all of that, right, everything goes into courts before it goes down out to the rangers. So how would you separate the upper zone from the lower zone if it's all coming out of courts?
The upper zone does not, can be irrigated off the pipeline.
Okay.
It doesn't have to come off courts.
Okay.
But it can also come off of courts because we have a pump station. And Jamestown's also installing an irrigation system. So maybe some of their flow can be diverted for irrigation. Some of it can go into courts. There's a lot of different options and flexibility that we have built into our operations now.
Okay, let me just clarify so I have it straight in my head. So for the tertiary treated water that we put out from the new wastewater treatment plant, that could get piped directly to the reclamation users.
Yes, in the upper zone.
And so then that could be separated out, never end up in courts, and in courts would be the tertiary. I mean, that would be
Secondary or blend,
Yeah,
yes,
the blended.
correct, in concept, that's all correct. We currently, as it is, in the summertime, a lot of times, almost all the water that comes out of the plant is consumed by the upper zone directly off the pipeline before it even gets in courts, which courts is basically serving the downstream customers.
Very good. Thank you for the clarification.
Yes, David.
Eric, what is the probability that a tertiary, secondary out of courts would occur?
I don't have a great answer, like percent, like what are our chances of, in terms of dealing with the permitting agencies? If you speak with Pace, they have, Andy is a positive guy, and we haven't gotten any sort of pushback so far in our dealings with Division of Drinking Water and with the State Water Board. So they have our permit applications, but there's some additional information that needs to be provided before we engage them again. And that is being compiled between Michelle and myself.
Well, my concerns, is the operational side. If you've got tertiary treated upper zone and a secondary lower zone, is the future inability to take water out of courts to put it back in the upper zone? And we can certainly go through some of that offline as to not take up a lot of time here, but it really severely compromises the ability to empty Quartz Reservoir at a, if it reaches a maximum fill point.
Your concern is spot on, and we do have a plan. We can talk offline because it gets the piping configuration looks like I wouldn't scratch your head when you look at it, but we do have a way in which we can cleave off a portion of the upper zone and still use the 50 horsepower pump below Quartz to supplement back into the upper zone and have that be a secondary disposal area and still keep the majority of the rest of the upper zone directly off the line. So there are, and that's part of the backup plan that we will present to the permitting agencies. We first wanted to start with the preferred optimal alternative, and then as more questions are asked, we have answers for those.
Definitely the easiest way to increase the capacity of tertiary treatment down there at Jamestown to eliminate the need for all of that. Going back to where we got here, has any of our pre-purchased top 5 equipment showed up, such as the submerged launderers for the clarifiers or the other equipment that we pre-ordered, the blowers or any of that?
No, Kiewit has not taken delivery on those. Kiewit's philosophy is, you know what, vendor, manufacturer, you hold on to that until we're absolutely ready to install it. There isn't a tremendous amount of space on site. They've got a lot of material being stockpiled and staged out. So no, not yet, but I could see the launderers being probably one of the first things once that clarifier is brought up to grade and they're ready to do that.
Any anticipated supply chain issues or lifetime?
Thank goodness the board authorized the pre-selection and pre-negotiation and purchase of that equipment because it has not caused any lead time issues. Right now, Kiewit is doing pretty good. We're unaware of any big issues right now.
Thank you.
And just on that, when we approved that, we were locking in the price. Is that still the case?
Yep.
Yeah, great.
Good discussion. Any other comments for Eric? Okay, any member of the public wish to comment? All right, this is a review item only, so I think we're good. Anyone on Zoom wish to comment?
Not at the moment.
Okay, then that's great. So thank you for the update on that. We always learn something. Appreciate it. So that concludes our our last item, and then we'll move on into staff reports.
Okay, I'll go first. So fun couple of weeks, lots of things going on, lots of opportunities. So on the 13th of this month, we all attended the reclamation luncheon down at the Posse Grounds. And again, Lisa Westbrook did a great job with Eric's help organizing that and putting that thing together. It was well attended, good meeting. I had to leave a little early because I had to get back up here for another meeting. Pete Camp of Roland hosted here a meeting of a handful or several other special districts within the county with the idea of proposing that we start up our own little chapter, Tuolumne County chapter of special districts. So I'm looking forward to seeing what comes of that, and I'll keep you posted. But one of the motivations for this, I believe, is to sort of help fill in the gaps, maybe, that's not the right way to say it, of the LAFCO agenda. So there was quite a bit of discussion about LAFCO in this meeting. So when the next meeting happens, I'd like to have you attend. So I don't have a date yet, but I'll let you know. Okay. See, on the 14th, we met with Chicken Ranch Rancheria to continue discussing our relationship with it when it comes to this development of the CDP contracts. And those discussions are ongoing. That is separate from, and then again on the 19th, we all met with USPR on this CDP contract. We basically laid out our water needs assessment. It was seemed like a good positive meeting with them. On the 20th, Lisa Westbrook, Eric, and myself met with Rocky Deal, sort of a last minute put together by Supervisor Half. She put us together to discuss funding opportunities for the Sierra Pines treatment plant. And that went really well. It was a brief discussion. I don't think we met for more than 30 minutes, but we've since heard back from them, and McClintock is definitely in support of this project. So we'll see if that bears any fruit. And then finally, yesterday, I met with Melissa Eads, the interim GM, city manager for our city. It was kind of sort of a meet and greet, get to know each other, explain to her a little bit about TUD and how it's important for the city of Sonora. And so it was a good first meeting, and she's excited to have a couple of tours of some of the facilities. So look forward to working with her more in the future. That's it.
Is she she's the temporary?
Interim, yeah.
Interim, okay, thank you.
She is hopeful to be that full time.
Right.
Any other comments or questions for Dawn? Okay, thanks, Dawn. Yeah. Anyone else, staff?
I have a report, if I'll go next. Several things with our communications and engagement plan for our water rights acquisition, and we're really excited to report on. First of all, we do attend the Home and Garden Show every year, and that it's been there. So we are happy to be back at the Home and Garden Show in person this year at the fairgrounds. And we also looped in our communications outreach, and that was this Saturday and Sunday. Thank you to the board members that were able to make it. And Lisa Westbrook did an outstanding job putting that together and coordinating it and making our booth look polished and professional, and getting a lot of historic information out there, but a lot of really great information and fact sheets and maps and things for the public to take home with them. Overall, I heard that there was just a very positive response, a lot of great questions about what TUD is doing now with just current projects and future projects, and about the acquisition and what that will mean for them. So, during your board reports, maybe you'll have some more information on that. So anyway, again, thank you for those that attended. We have our we will be announcing and have invited the Board of Supervisors, City Council, and tribes to join a joint board meeting on May 10th. And so that will be agendized very soon, and that information will go out. That will be a great opportunity for your Board of Supervisors, City of Sonora, and the tribes to really talk in detail about the water rights acquisition and what TUD is doing now and how that impacts our customers and the community. And then following that, we also have scheduled 3 open houses. So we'll send this out via email as well to your board, but we have 3 scheduled for open houses. First one Wednesday, June 22nd at Columbia Elementary School. The second one just the day after on Thursday, June 23rd at Sonora Opera Hall. These are all in the evening from 5 to 7. And then the following week, Tuesday, June 28th at Soulsbyville Elementary. So scattered throughout the community in different locations in the evening time, hopefully to allow more of the public to attend. And with the open houses, it will come anytime between 5 and 7, and all of the information will be available and different people to speak to, including hopefully a representative from PG&E to talk to about the water acquisition. So we're really excited we've got a busy summer coming up. And so, and then if you guys ever have any questions, just please feel free to reach out. Thank you.
Thank you, Abby. Yes, Ron.
Would it be, I don't know what you have planned for that meeting with the county and city and all that. Would it be maybe a good idea to have that video or video that Ralph Tellis has and be able to lead out the, okay. I figured you probably already found it, but.
That's
Good to check though, but yes.
That's part of the plan. I'm sorry, I failed to mention, we also invited Tom Trott and Community Services District, and I believe Pete Campa will also be in attendance from Groveland Community Services District. So sorry, I didn't mean to forget you guys. But yeah, we absolutely will use that and it was great. And that was rolling during the Home and Garden Show as well. So people were really interested in that.
Thank you, Abby. Any other comments for Abby? Okay, anyone from our audience? Okay, well, with that, anybody else from staff? Okay, great, then thank you. And let's see, we'll begin here. Lisa, I'll just go down the
Sure.
line if you want.
Yeah, the big thing that is related to TUD, because we are the fire water for the county, is just on the fuel reductions. We've been doing a lot of on-the-ground fuel reductions work with both PDA, the Prescribed Burn Association, and Firewise out in the community. And so just question, and Lisa Westbrook's not here today, but last year around this time, we were putting stuff on the website to remind people of fire fuels reduction. And I'd love to see that happen. Right now, I think that this last weekend was the last of the burn weekends without permit. And so just a reminder of reach out to CAL FIRE if you're doing any sort of burn activity, to make sure you get a permit for that. Now that I think that we're moving into the permits required. But yes, please, let's all work together on that, fuel reductions.
And you attended the reclamation luncheon also?
Correct, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
okay, Juan?
Okay. That was, the first thing I was gonna mention was the reclamation luncheon. I attended that along with everyone else. I thought it was well attended and a lot of good information was put out, questions were answered, and so anyway, I've been to numerous ones of those, and that was probably one of the best ones I've been to. So that was 413, 423. I did attend the Home and Garden Show first thing on Saturday morning. Eric Hall was there, as well as Lisa Westbrook, of course. And once again, all the years I've been on the board, I've gone to those every time that they've held them. And this was by far the most positive Home and Garden Show that I've been to. And we had a couple people that had ruffled feathers and were asking some, or making some statements and so on, but I think that between the three of us, we were able to smooth the feathers back and send them away, if not totally happy, at least understanding what's going on with TUD. And that's what I think is powerful, because you're seeing people that you normally never see. And they have concerns, and it's amazing how far off base it can be. It's just amazing. We had another, as far as at that Home and Garden Show, Eric and I almost fell over backwards. We had a Pinecrest permittee that came up, and I won't get into the big long story, but he just went on and on. I mean, he was really adamant about how we had to go through with this PG&E thing, and we were doing the right thing, and oh my God, I was like, wait a minute, where's the recorder? 424 yesterday, and 424, 425. I worked all day on Sunday, pretty much at home, and then yesterday in trying to rework and correct the EN2 project outline for firewater draft points. That was quite a project for me. That's not my forte. So that's it.
Thanks, Ron. Director Boatright.
Just the attendance of the reclamations, luncheon training, and no other reports at this time.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Director Prince.
Yeah, again, reclamation meeting was awesome. Lisa did a great job, so do Eric, appreciate that, and well attended. And I enjoyed those. Those are a really good thing that we do, and I applaud the staff for doing that. Also on 4/19, I had breakfast with the Sierra Professional Association. They wanted a little TUD update, so I spoke right off the FAQs from for our PG&E acquisition. That's what they wanted to hear about, and got a lot of positive comments on that. And then also on the 23rd at the Home and Garden Show, I took over right after Director Ringen was done, and never got a single negative comment on the PG&E acquisition. It was all positive, and there was a lot of them. So very good to hear. Very, very happy that the community seems to be behind us on this, and as they should be, I believe. And so that was good to hear. Also at the Home and Garden Show, there was one comment from a nice lady that came up, and she drives Standard Road every day, and she just wanted to be sure that we were going to do the Curtis Creek School project. And I said, yes, we are. And she wanted some specific dates when it was going to be done. And I couldn't give them to her, of course, but I told her that it was forthcoming, and she's happy about that. So those of us that drive Standard Road can sympathize with her, because it's a pretty rough road. We want to get that done so the county can pave it, and we can all save more time in our car. So anyway, that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Okay, I'll just close up by saying I too attended the reclamation luncheon. I felt that the energy there was really great. I think it could be a combination of the facility, and it was good to see Jim Opie, coming back and forth and all that. But the facility is great. But also, I think that there's a sense that we were a little bit behind the ball last year to make sure everybody had water. It was a pretty stressful time. This year, I just could see that the communication, these are steps towards us developing and improving our partnership. And it just seemed like that was there, and it was a good, relaxed environment. Stephanie Sue's she is a ranch owner also, but she also works for Chicken Ranch. And, she commented on the fact that they're gonna have a lot of water down there as well from their projects. And I think that all in all, the risk reduction for fire, these guys are really doing us a great service by keeping that area green. We really benefit from that, and sparks can fly now for miles, and so I'm really grateful that 100% of our treated effluent now is getting recycled, or it always has been, and those guys we're just building good relations with them. So good job, Don, and again, good job with Lisa. The food was great, so yeah, that was good. And then Home and Garden on the 24th, and again, man, I get these real talkers, they wanna know where their water comes from. We get the maps out, the maps were there. And there was some really great, there was an historic thing that I thought that was wonderful. So Our communications effort was also there for building that water security piece. And so it was really all there to point to. And I really appreciate that. And the low flush rebate was there. And I got lots of positive comments too. So it's a really great opportunity to formally interact with the county. So good job to Lisa Westbrook. And with that, I just want to also mention for burn permits, you just go online now and get them. It's really easy. So you guys probably know that, but you just print it off, put it on your refrigerator, and yeah, it's really easy. So with that. So anything else? Anybody want to add anything for the good of the order? Okay, I want to again welcome. I'm really pleased to see all 5 of us here. I realize that cannot be the standard all the time, but I appreciate that. So it's great. Anyway, with that, meeting adjourned.